what in all the wonder of heaven had she thought of, to follow this boy over the water to Alba? He scarcely knew her name. Like all the rest, he had dreamt something in her blue eyes, and thought he had seen her soul. There was a creek where a river tumbled, like the scampering of an otter into the sea. And he said nothing, but brought in the boat. They clambered out and up, and the sun burned like a silver disk behind the mist. She called him, and he went, waiting for her to speak. And she said nothing, but only took his hand. A place of hazelwoods, of hills and dells, where birds flitted and wove, and the air felt sweet. "This is a little kingdom," she said. And he thought how someone had been here before them, once upon a time. "Let's be here," she said. "We've come far enough for safety." That night there was no night. The sky held its blue, so light they could have walked for miles and miles unguided. They did not sleep. There was no need. Instead, they sat and watched, like children at a window with all the summer left to play. Word came that the King of Ulster has vowed by the earth that is beneath him, by the high sky that is above him, and by the westward passing sun, that he would not have a day peace or night rest if the children of Uisne, his own father's brothers' sons, did not return to the land of their home. Deirdre was not willing to leave Alba, but she went with Naoise. Deirdre was heavy showering the tears, and she sang, "Beloved is the land, that yonder land, Alba, full of woods and full of lakes. Sore to my heart to be leaving thee. Farewell, dear Alba of the free."
When I was in my teens, I remember guests coming to Argyll farm and being taken out on the lawn by my father, who loved a story and was simply convinced that they had lived there, that Deirdre wasn't just a figment from an imaginary tale from the past. He was utterly convinced that they had lived in Glenettive. Evelyn and I came to Argyll in 1967, the year I introduced Evelyn and the children to my parents, and she was delighted to know that the story had resonance. She had grown up with the story, knew it in quite considerable detail, and was very pleased that Neil was so enthusiastic about it. We made plans in 2016 to pack up the house here at Gorstian and move to Dublin. Evelyn one afternoon, she said, I feel very badly that when we go, there'll be nothing really to show that we existed here. And it wasn't until we got the dreadful news that she was dying in the spring of 2017 that I just realised that I only had perhaps 3 months to agree with her what we should do. And it was during that terribly important time before she died that we talked extensively about having something left, that would she feel it was appropriate to pick up the story again and do the Sheiling project, memorialising Deirdre and Naoise in a way that she felt was worthy of them. And she said that she thought it was a simply wonderful idea, and how would I do it? And I said, well, I'll have to find a designer. And that's what brought me in touch with David Wilson, who's created this beautiful Sheiling development. When we arrived on Beinn Ghlas, he said, I have never been offered such an incredible site. He said, I can't wait to go back and do drawings for it. And about 10 days later, he came back with the drawings that are virtually unchanged from the design you see now built in front of you. I think that the Sheiling will give visitors, as Evelyn hoped, a focal point. She often said, people struggle up in all kinds of weather to the top of Beinn Ghlas, and when they get there, there's nowhere to shelter, there's nowhere to get their breath back, and to sit and just contemplate what is perhaps one of the most beautiful views in the west of Scotland. What she wanted to do with the Sheiling was not for her, but for Deirdre and Naoise, who don't play much of a role in Argyll. I think once the Sheiling is built, it will raise all kinds of questions. I think people will get excited about the story, and maybe people will start re-researching it all. So I think it would be best to say that the Sheiling was inspired by Evelyn, but wasn't created to memorialise her. She had too much energy for that. I'd like to think of her living on with that creative spirit. I wish Evelyn was here to be interviewed.
Yeah.
Oh dear. But I know she'd love it. Yeah, she'd be thrilled.